Today I'm going to introduce our guest speaker. Her name is Toyin Omotayo, and she is a personal development partner and career coach with experience in business advocacy, organizational development, and HR generalist functions across various sectors. She leads a capacity development and mentoring network for recent graduates and young professionals at the African Leadership University, helping them make wise career decisions as well as develop competencies and capacity for the workplace. She's a graduate of psychology from the prestigious, I feel like I'm not going to say this correctly, but the Obafemi Awolowo University of Nigeria. Sorry for butchering it. And holds a master's degree in industrial and labor relations from the University of Lagos. She is an associate of the Chartered Institute of Personal Management and is also a licensed human resource practitioner. She is passionate about people dynamics, personal and social transformation through self-leadership and innovation and effective policy formulation. And she today is going to be speaking on setting personal financial goals and talking particularly around SMART goals and planning for your future by setting financial goals and working towards those. So I'm going to hand it over to her and you can add any introduction that I missed. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jodine. And you pronounced the names real well. Like, I'm so proud of you. It was good. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you to everyone. It's such an exciting time to be here. I've looked forward to this ever since I got the invitation, and I'm so excited to be here today. Okay, so very quickly, so I don't take too much of our time, I'm just going to start sharing my screen, and please just let me know when you do see it. Okay.
It's all good. Yeah.
Okay. So my screen is very visible. Okay, so very quickly, I would be talking on understanding your personal finance. So, and I'm going to be focusing on some areas such as SMART goals. What does it mean to set SMART goals? What does it mean to set SMART financial goals? And I'm also going to be touching on different categories of goals, your short, medium, and long-term goals based on where you are in life at the moment. And I'm also going to be teaching a bit about how you can set your goal and then walk backwards and different financial goals that you can set, again, based on the current place that you find yourself in life. So very quickly, let's talk about what SMART goals are. Before we even start to talk about SMART financial goals, what are SMART goals in themselves? So if you've heard people say, oh, I set SMART goals or SMART goals, this is what it actually means. It means SMART. So from S, you have specific. M stands for measurable. A stands for achievable or attainable, as some people would say. R stands for realistic, and T stands for timely or time-bound. I'll take that again. S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R stands for realistic, and T stands for timely. So let's take it one by one to say, what does it mean to have a specific goal? It means that you actually know what you want to do. So you want to start to ask yourself, what do I really want to do, right? An example of a specific goal would be to say you want to make $1,000 in the next 1 year. That is specific. You want to make money. That's a specific goal, all right? And I'm going to talk more, I'm going to give different examples of, not so SMART goals and SMART goals as we go. Measurable says, how will you know when you've reached it? So you say you want to make more money. How do you know when you've actually made more money? What figure, what data are you attaching to that goal? So if you don't know when you hit that goal, how do you actually know you've hit your goal? So M stands for measurable. One of my favorite mentors will say, you cannot multiply what you cannot measure, right? So you cannot increase your money if you can't measure your money. So it's important that you know how to determine when you've reached your goal. A stands for achievable. So you start to ask yourself, is it in my power to accomplish it? Is it in my capacity to accomplish my goal? There are goals that you have that are influenced by external circumstances. Now, your goal might be such a beautiful goal. You might have the internal strength or the internal capacity for your goal. But if there are more external circumstances affecting your goal than internal capacities, it's a problem. So you want to ask yourself, is your goal in your power to accomplish it? All right. And then we move to realistic, which is very close to, having an achievable goal to say, is this a goal that you can realistically achieve? If you look at the external circumstances, if you look at your resources, if you look at the current stage of life that you're in, is this a goal that is realistically achievable for you? And then the last, we move to letter T, which says, when exactly do you want to accomplish your goal? Now, a lot of people have beautiful goals. A lot of people have, attractive goals. But if you do not set a time to your goals, it's very difficult for you to achieve your goals. So you want to tell yourself and say, beyond I want to make more money, you want to be specific and say, I would make $1,000 in the next 6 months. That is a smart goal, right? It's specific, it's measurable to say in 6 months, when I have $1,000, I know that I have hit my goal, right? You tell yourself that in 6 months, I must have $1,000. So you put a time to it, you can measure it, it's achievable, it's within your power, right? To make the money that you want to make, okay? So having understood what SMART goals are, let me take us through, setting SMART personal financial goals. And we'll also go back to, examples of what it means to have SMART personal financial goals. So let me start by explaining what are financial goals, right? So financial goals are simply saying they're financial targets, all right? They are financial goals are savings, investment, or spending targets that you hope to achieve over a set period of time, right? Okay, just a minute. Okay, so I said financial goals are savings, investment, or spending targets that you hope to achieve over a set period of time. So an example of a financial goal will be, I want to make $1,000 in 6 months. That is, it has the money figure to it, and it's over a set period of time to say from now till 6 months, which is next year, you want to make $1,000. Now, depending on the stage of life you are in, is also a big determining factor in how you set your financial goals. Let me give you a good example. If you're currently a student, say you don't have an extra source of income, you don't have a side job, it might be a bit tougher for you to make, say, $1,000 in 3 months, because again, you are just a student, you don't have an extra source of income. So the stage of life that you're in is also a big factor to consider when you're setting your SMART financial goals. This is to ensure that you're not putting so much undue pressure on yourself, and when you don't hit your goals, you start to get discouraged. Remember that we said that SMART goals, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable within your power, it has to be realistic. Does your internal capacity supersede the external circumstances? And remember, it has to be time bound. Okay, I can see a question. I would get to the question as soon as I'm done. So because I know that's the Q&A session, so I don't take too much of your time, but I see a question and I will get to it in a bit. All right. So the stage of life you're in usually determines what type of goals you want to achieve. Now, let's take a look at examples of not so SMART goals and examples of SMART goals. So this is an example of a not specific goal to say, I want to decrease my debt. That's not specific. How much is your current debt? When do you want to decrease your debt? How do you want to decrease your debt? So an example of a SMART financial goal would be, I want to eliminate my credit card debt by negotiating a payment plan with the creditors and applying the money from my second job toward it. Can you see the huge difference between a not specific goal and a SMART goal? When you say I want to decrease my debt, it's so ambiguous. How do you want to decrease your debt? How much is your debt? When do you know when you've settled your debt? So you want to say things like, you want to eliminate your credit card debt by negotiating a payment plan. That is one way to decrease your debt. You want to negotiate a payment plan with your creditors and say, over the space of 3 months to 6 months, I want to, settle my debt. Or you want to say, okay, I'm going to take a second job to augment settling my debt. That's specific. You have a game plan. An example of, not measurable goal would be, I will pay off most of my debt as soon as possible. That again is ambiguous. As soon as possible is not a timeline. As soon as possible, it's not measurable. As soon as possible can be now. As soon as possible can be in your power to do, say, 1 year. So that's ambiguous. But you see, when you say, I will pay off $1,000 of my credit card debt in the next 4 months, that is easily measurable. So you can know that in 4 months, you should have paid $1,000 of your credit card debt. That is a game plan that you can work with. And it's easier for you to meet your goals, when you can put specific figures, specific data to your goals. A not achievable goal would be to say, I will be a millionaire in 2 years. For some people, this might be an achievable goal. But imagine if all you do at the moment is just schooling. You don't have an extra job. You don't have a way where you're making extra income. It might be a bit unrealistic to say, or it might be difficult for you to achieve it by saying, I will be a millionaire in 2 years. How are you going to be a millionaire in 2 years? But see, here's an example of a goal that is achievable even while you're still in school. To say, I will save $2,000 in a year by saving $6 a day. $6 might look like a money that you can get in a day. So this means that if you save $6 every day, by the end of the year, over a 12-month period, you would have $2,000. Does that sound exciting? That $2,000 is not so big, because if you consistently put in $6 in your savings account, you're going to have $2,000 in a year. That's more achievable. An example of a not realistic goal would be, say, by managing my finances next year, I'll be debt-free and I've saved enough to cover my kids' college. Again, the word debt-free is still ambiguous. How much of a debt do you want to have settled? So a realistic goal would be to say, by managing my money better in 3 years, I'll be debt-free and have an emergency fund of $7,500, 3 times my monthly expenses. Do you take note of the figures, the timelines, the specificity in this goal? That is how you can achieve your goal. To say that in 3 years, I want to be able to have this particular amount in my emergency fund. Every decision you take from now, every spending, every saving, anything you do from now would move you closer, or should move you closer, to the goal of having $7,500 in your emergency fund, right? And of course, the last one to say is, I'll be debt-free in a little while. You've said nothing. But you see, when you say, I'll be debt-free by March 2021, now saying I would pay off $1,000 of my credit card debt by March 2021. That is a specific goal. It's easier for you to achieve your goals when they're specific, because every daily action, every consistent practice must move you closer to your financial goals. All right? Okay, so let's take a look at what it actually means. How do you actually set your financial goals? How are you sure these are goals, that you can easily attain, right? So the first thing, would be to write down one personal SMART financial goal. So in meeting your financial targets, you want to have a goal chart to say, you can take a cardboard, or sometimes I have sticky notes, all around my study, to say, these are the goals that I want to meet. And then I start to strategize. I start to itemize how I will get to this goal. Write down one personal SMART financial goal. Remember, we said that A SMART goal is one that is specific, one that is measurable, one that is achievable, very realistic, and also time-bound, right? So write down one personal SMART financial goal. Now decide if your goal is short-term, mid-term, or long-term, and create a timeline for that goal. In the course of this session, I'll do a little more explanation on what it means to have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, right? When you decide what goal you are trying to set based on the current phase of life that you're in, then you now determine how much money you need to save to reach your goal, and you separate that amount by the month or the year. Remember that I said if you want to have $2,000 by the end of the year, it is easier for you to save $6 every day for 12 months than for you to save, say, $500. It might be difficult for you to save that bulk amount, but if you're consistent daily actions is more important in reaching our goals, right? So determine how much money you need to save to reach your goal, and then you start separating that amount. So you know that no matter the money you collect in a day, you must set aside $6 every day. Now, think of all the ways you can reach that goal. And some of the ways could be by savings, by cutting your expenses. You want to earn extra money, or you want to find additional source of income or additional resources. Think about all the possible legal ways to reach your goal. So for some of you, it might be to cut down on your gadget expenses, how much you spend on your gadgets, or you want to cut down on eating from fast food, say from 5 days a week to twice a week, because of course you know that eating at home is more cost efficient than eating at a fast food or a restaurant. So you want to make those financial decisions. Also decide which is the best combination of ways to reach your goal and write them down. This is very important. Your goals must be written down. There is something that happens with your brain and your eyes when it comes to achieving your goals. What you constantly fixate on is what your mind eventually produces. And if your mind can produce a certain amount, it is the first big step to actually physically producing that amount. I know this because it has worked for me. And I've spoken to mentors, I've spoken to partners who I have seen work this out in their life. The first stage to achieving your goal is making sure they are written down. So you want to write your goal. At the beginning of the year, you have goal setting, a vision setting to say, this is what I want to achieve by 6 months by the end of the year. So writing your goal is the best way, to start to achieve your goal. All right. So let me take you through, what it means to have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Now, depending on the area of life that you are, for some goals, it might be a long-term goal. And it means that, they are not goals that you want to achieve right now. They're not immediate goals. For some goals, it might be a short-term goal. So when you talk about a short-term goal, think about 6 months to 1 year. It's an immediate goal, right? List all the plans that you already have and some of the things that you would like to see happen for you in a year. So an example of a short-term goal would be to buy an appliance, pay off your credit card. It might not be paying all of your credit card debt. It might be paying a specific amount. It could be buying an instrument, it could be taking a short course. Just think about the things that you want to achieve within a space of 6 months to a year, right? Those are examples of short-term goals. And then you start to plan and say, how can I get this certain amount of money? How can I hit this financial target in a year or in 6 months? All right. Then you move to say, if you want to set a midterm goal, what is a midterm goal? A midterm goal is a goal that you want to see happen over the space of, say, 3 to 5 years, based on where you are now. Again, there are some goals that realistically you cannot meet them in this current phase of life. And it's okay, to know the kind of goals that you can meet in your current phase, right? So what are the things that you want to do in the medium time range over the next few years, to say 3 to 5 years? It could be saving for college. If you were planning to go to college, say in about 3 years, now will be a good time to say, okay, I have a midterm goal of saving for college. Then you start to save your money. It could be paying off your student loans. It could be buying a car. Just look for goals, that will give you a sense of accomplishment in the next 3 to 5 years. All right. Now, there are goals that are long-term goals that are not for the now, but you know that these are goals that will give you a sense of accomplishment later on in life, say about 10 to 20 years. An example of a long-term goal for me at my current phase of life would be to buy a home, right? Or have a comfortable retirement, because I'm still in the workforce and I don't plan to retire, anytime soon. But a long-term goal would be to have a retirement plan. That would be a long-term goal, to have a comfortable retirement. So depending on the area or the current phase of your life, you can categorize your goals into short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals based on what you want to see happen for you, right? So let me give you an example that I've broken down here. An example of a short-term goal would be to say, I want to buy new shoes in 3 months, right? And the value of the new shoe that I want is $100. This means that if I am able to save $33 every month for the next 3 months, I would have $100 in 3 months and I would buy my shoe. That's a short-term goal for me. And I would be happy about it because it's a goal I want to see happen for me in 3 months. I've hit my goal. That would make me happy. That would make me fulfilled in 3 months. An example of a midterm goal would be, say, I want to go on vacation in the next 1 year. And I say, okay, the value or the budget for my vacation will be $2,500. Now, $2,500 might look like huge money for me to just, drop at once. But here's where the planning comes in to say, if I'm able to put down into my savings account $200 every month, by 1 year when I'm ready for my vacation, I would have $2,500. That's a much more easier way to achieve my goal. Or I say on the long term, I want to have $7,500 in my emergency fund to say in 3 years. If I save $200 every month for the next 3 years, I would have $7,500 in my account, in my emergency fund. Can you see that it's easier if your goals are, very specific, very broken down? It's easier for you to achieve it. Now, a total of, $33 and $210 and $200 will give you $443 per month. So it means that every month you should be able to set aside $443 per month. When you buy your new shoes, you cross it out. That's a goal you've achieved. It will start to reduce the pressure or the amount of money that you're saving every month. All right. So this is an example of a short-term goal, a mid-term goal, and a long-term goal. So what are some tips, for effective goal setting? What are some acts, like I like to call it, for effective goal setting? The first thing is you need to set your goals early. The fact that you are in this current phase of life doesn't mean you can't start planning for a retirement. I've started planning for my retirement, even though I know it's still going to be in about 20, 30 years from now. But I want to have a comfortable retirement. I want to have a comfortable life after work. So I've started to plan for my retirement. So one tip is set your goals early. You want to achieve a goal in the next 3 months. This is the time to start to set it. You want to achieve a goal in the next 6 months. Even when you don't have all the resources that you need, start to set it early. I mentioned earlier, write your goals down. That is the biggest way to hit your goals faster. Again, review your goals often. Like I said, there are economic circumstances or economic factors that might impact on your goals sometimes. So your goal that you have set now might not be so relevant in the next 3 months. So you want to revisit your goals and say, okay, is this goal still relevant based on all the external circumstances that I'm seeing around me? Because like I said, if external circumstances are greater than internal capacities, it would frustrate your goal. It would frustrate you achieving your goal. It would be more difficult. So you want to review your goals often. Another thing is, as much as you review your goals often, You want to have the discipline, the tenacity, and the grit to stick to your goals, right? So remember that earlier on, I said, when you're setting your financial goals, it could be you cutting down on expenses. So you want to reduce the time that you visit the restaurant from, say, 5 times a week to 2 times a week. You want to stick to it. So sometimes you'll have cravings, and it's okay to massage your cravings, but discipline also says, no, I have financial goals that I want to meet, so I'm not going to have this for now. That's where discipline comes in, to say it would be faster for you to achieve your goal if you stick to it and have some discipline in achieving your goals. Again, you want to have micro goals. Remember that I said it's more difficult for you to say, I want $2,000, and it might be more difficult for you to start to say, okay, I'm going to have 1,000, I'm going to save $1,000 per day. But you see, it's much more easier. A micro goal will be to say, every day I will put in my savings account $6. That's a much more easier goal. That's a micro goal. All right. So it's easier for you to achieve your big goals. Another thing would be, don't be afraid to change your goals. Like I said, when you review your goals, you'll find out that, okay, maybe this goal isn't so relevant as it used to be. So don't be afraid to change your goals, but ensure that you are not changing your goals based on sentiments or emotions. Ensure that you are using the appropriate parameters to change your goals, either economic factors or economic circumstances. Ensure that you're using non-sentimental parameters to change your goals. Again, this one is such, and I love it so much because it gives me energy to go for more, is that I celebrate my small wins. So when you're setting your goals, when you hit $100 in 3 months to buy a new shoe, celebrate yourself, because you've been consistent enough to save $33 every month till you got $100. That's a big deal. When you celebrate your goals, it gives you motivation, it gives you excitement, it gives you energy to go for more, to go for goal. So it's important that you celebrate your wins. Another thing is, you have to stay accountable. Discipline can also come by the help of your friends, your families, your mentors, your colleagues, or your partners. So when you set a goal, you want to ask someone and say, okay, I have a goal of making $1,000 in a year. I need you to keep me accountable. These are the ways in which I want to get it. When you see me making a decision that is not in line with my goals, I need you to call me back on track. So accountability is such a powerful way to achieve your goals. All right. So now let's talk about how you set your goals and work backwards, and some of the different financial goals that are relevant for this phase of your life. So what does it mean to set your goal backwards? It simply means that you're starting with the end goal in mind, right? So you have a specific goal, and then you start to break it down into micro goals, into minute goals, and then you start to bring up strategies and principles, that would help you to achieve the bigger goal that you've already set. All right. So I'm going to give you an example in this next slide. So here is an example of a big, broad, distant goal to say, I want to go on vacation next year, which is, say, next year, October. That's 1 year from now. I want to go on vacation, right? Breaking down your goals or working backwards will be that you already have a goal, is to go on vacation next year. And then you now say, how do I break my big goal into smaller, easier goals? So an example of breaking down your goal will be to, first of all, identify your budget. How much is it going to cost me to go on vacation next year? So say you have a budget of $2,000, right? Then you start to make a list of possible locations to say, okay, where are the places that I desire to go for vacation, right? Then you start to determine how much each location costs. Remember that you have a budget of $2,000, and remember that we're sticking to our budget, we're sticking to our goals. You don't want to exceed $2,000. So it means that you now start to shortlist your location to fit into your $2,000 budget. All right. Now, after having these goals, you can also now start to split it into smaller goals, into specific targets to say, if I want to have $2,000 in 1 year, I would need to save $167 per month, or I would need to save $6 per day, right? So those are examples of specific micro goals. You want to find out if they have any type of tourist discounts in your chosen location. You want to find out if you are eligible for airline coupons. You want to, make all those little inquiries, little research on, how you can stick to your budget. Now, a master list of a single action, it would be to say, what are the things I can do consistently daily that would get me to my bigger goal? So an example of a consistent daily action in going for vacation next year would be to say, you want to cut down on eating fast food to 2 days a week because you know that it's going to save you more money, right? So if you cut down on eating fast foods from 5 days a week to 2 days a week, you can save money. Or you want to say, take an extra job to augment your savings, all right? Or you want to search for airline deals. There are airline deals that come up every day, every weekend. You want to start making those research and say, okay, can I take advantage of an airline deal? So this is a good way to break down your goals into consistent daily actions that would eventually lead you to achieving your big goal. All right? Okay, so let me take you through some of the tips to consider when you're making your financial goals or when you're setting your financial goals and working, backwards. The first thing will be to stop thinking in present value. Now, what does it mean to think in present value? Remember that something that is worth $2,000 this year might not be worth $2,000 next year, right? We have things that appreciate and we have things that depreciate. So for example, your nice looking shoe or your nice looking iPhone might not cost as much as it costs now next year. So you want to think of, of future value of saying, how much is this going to be worth in the next 1 year? So an example would be that if you want to take a vacation in the next 1 year, to say your budget is $2,000, you want to start to plan to reach a maximum of, say, $2,500, because again, what you started to calculate now might not be the same thing next year, right? So you want to say, instead of saving $6 a day, let me save $8 instead, so that at the end of the day, I would have made more, right? So don't think in present value, think in future value, think in possibilities. How much is this going to be worth in the next 1 year, right? Also, in setting your goals, don't compare yourself. Like I said, everybody is not in the same stage of life. Some people can pull out $1,000 from their account and it will not be a big deal. But for some of you, it might be a big deal. It might be really strenuous or difficult. So don't compare yourself with someone else. When you have your goal, stick to it. Make the decisions that you can accommodate at this current phase of your life, right? Don't compare yourself. Again, have big dreams. I understand that, sometimes because you want to fit your goals into something that your eyes can see. It limits how you set goals. Set big goals, have big dreams. You will find ways to consistently set smaller goals that will move you to your bigger goals. All right. Another thing will be take action, then adjust. So I've seen people set goals, especially financial goals, to say, I will have this. And then because sometimes they don't have the resources yet, or they don't have the factors yet, they're just looking. Take action. Remember that I said that you can always review your goals as you go. As you go along the line, you start to adjust. If you're saving $6 a day, say in the next month you can say, oh, I want to increase to $8 a day, so as to adjust into whatever circumstances might have come up. So the first thing will be take action. Start to save something now. It could be as little as $5. It could be $6. Don't wait until you have the big money to say, okay, I want to start saving. Start saving now, right? Start setting your smart financial goals. Start setting it now. Another thing will be avoid distractions. Focus on your big goal, which is the same thing as not comparing yourself. So an example of a distraction would be to say, you want to cut down. You already said that you wanted to cut down on your expenses. And that would mean you cutting down on eating fast food from 5 days to 2 days. So you know that a distraction would be to go hang out with a friend at a restaurant. If you know that it's not on your budget, it's not on your list, it's a distraction, because when you get there, you might be tempted to want to buy what you're not supposed to buy. So can you find somewhere else to hang out, say in your house, at the park, or something where you wouldn't have to spend money that you have not planned for? So it's essential that in achieving your financial goals, you have to be focused. Focus on your big goal. Avoid any distraction that might come up. You don't have to buy the latest thing. You don't have to buy the newest thing or the trendy thing. Once you have the goal, set your mind on that goal, and that's what you should focus on. All right. So let's talk about, we're going to round up soon, planning for different financial goals, right? So there are different financial goals that you can plan for in this phase of your life. You have your savings plan, your investment plan, your emergency fund plan, your insurance plan. It could be for your car insurance, for life insurance. You have your mortgage plan, you have a retirement plan, and I always like to include this one, and it's the personal development plan, because at this phase of your life, a personal development plan is a goal that you should have to say, how am I going to take in new knowledge? How am I going to, acquire knowledge? So you should also have money that you set aside for buying educational materials, buying books, going for short courses, taking certifications. So it's important, your savings plan, your investment plan, whether you're investing in stocks or bonds, you want to have an investment plan. You want to have an emergency fund plan. You want to have an insurance plan for damages or contingencies. You want to have a mortgage plan to say, okay, if I want to buy a house in, say, about 3 to 5 years, this is the plan that I have, to buy a house or own a home. You also want to have a retirement plan. Like I said earlier, this is the time where you start to plan for your retirement, start to save, the money that you would need to live a comfortable life after retirement. And of course, your personal development plan. So let me give you, practical examples of what you should be focusing on based on your age bracket or where you are currently in life. So in your 20s, again, I cannot overemphasize it. Start to save for your retirement. I already have a retirement plan, and it's a pension account that I have. So you want to open an account and say, this a percentage of my income or percentage of my earnings goes into my retirement account, right? You also want to start to save for emergency funds. This is also the age bracket where you start to think of how you can eliminate your debt, how you can pay your debt back, because you don't want your debt running all through 10, 20 years, right? So start to think of how you can eliminate your debt. And this is the time where you invest money with a more aggressive growth strategy. Because again, your tolerance for risk is so high. You have a lot of time, you have lots of years. So you want to take more risk with your finances, and you take calculated risk, right? So don't put your money into something that you are not so sure of. Yes, you take risk, but please take calculated risk when dealing with finances. It's very important. But this is the age where you want to invest more, like buying assets or purchasing a piece of land, or buying something that appreciates over time. This is the time you want to do it. In your 30s, you want to focus on budgeting your money carefully, because now you have responsibilities, you want to get married, you're going to have kids. So you need to carefully budget and stick to your budget. Also, eliminating debt might go on in almost all the phases of your life, because as long as you owe money, you must pay your debt. So that can be a constant as you go on in life. Again, you want to make retirement strategies a priority, at this point. This is also the point where you cut down on unnecessary expenses. If you don't need it, don't buy it. If it's not essential for you, you don't need to have it. So you want to save your money, to do other stuff that are important and critical for your future. All right. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have fun. You can also have leisure plan, right? So I have some money that I save aside to say, this is, leisure money. This is money to say, have lunch with my friends or something. You can also have that plan, and save towards that as well. In your 40s, remember I said you're eliminating debt. Now, this is the point where you want to start thinking of, saving for your house, investing in an education plan for your children, a college fund for them. And again, you want to continue to save as much as possible for your retirement. Your retirement plan will cut across every stage of your life because that is a long-term plan. So you want to start setting your goals, your retirement goals early enough, right? In your 50s, right? This time, you're getting close to retirement. So you want to have a good part of your savings or your investments in your retirement account. You want to stay with stock investment, for the long term. At this point, you will start to think of your future long-term care needs. How do you want your retirement to look like? Here you start to think of, writing your will, your estate plan, what goes to what, who goes to where, and of course, as long as you have debt, you keep paying back your debt. So it's very important. Of course, in your 60s, you know that at this point, retirement is setting in. So you want to focus on the things that are really, really important, right? At this stage, because your risk, your tolerance for risk is quite low. You can afford to make such risky decisions because now you need all the money that you can get, right? You want to be more conservative with your investments. You want to focus on your estate plan. You want to review your life insurance policies, and all of those, plans that you have for life after retirement. All right. Okay. So as I round up, let me leave you with this interesting, term, your net worth. And this is quite interesting because a lot of times I hear people say, net worth, like, I don't know what that means. I think only wealthy people like Bill Gates, should have net worth. No, everybody needs to know what their net worth is. It's as simple. What is your net worth? Your net worth is the difference between what you own, what belongs to you, and what you owe. A simpler definition is this. How do you calculate your net worth? How do you know what your net worth is? Your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. What are assets? Assets are things that are constantly bringing money into your pockets, right? An example of an asset would be your stock or your shares, because you know that as the years go by, as the time goes by, money is increasing, it's appreciating. An example would be your a piece of land or your art collection, right? Or your insurance policies, because as the year goes by, money is increasing, it's appreciating, right? Example of a liability would be a car loan, a student loan, or something that doesn't bring money into you, right? So you have to be careful. You want to know what your assets are, what your liabilities are. And here's a piece of advice that I will give to, a lot of people in this age range, to say, this is the time where you need to focus more on acquiring assets than acquiring liabilities. I know that it looks like, oh, this is the time, to, spend a lot of money, but I can assure you that this is the time where if you want to, start building wealth, this is the time where you need to start to acquire assets. So for example, a piece of land is an asset. A piece of land never depreciates. It would always appreciate. A piece of land, say 5 million naira now, will not be 5 million, or let me say $5 million, will not be $5 million next year. It would always appreciate. Your art collection will not be the same. It would have increased, right? So you want to start, getting used to this term of saying, what is my net worth? What am I worth financially? If you add all your assets together, are your assets greater than your liabilities? Those are quick questions that you want to ask yourself. If your assets are greater than your liabilities, then you're on your way to building sustainable wealth. But you see, you cannot spend money on things that you don't need or things that depreciate and assume that you're acquiring wealth. You can't. So it is important when you're setting your financial goals and building your financial plan, knowing your net worth, regularly calculating your net worth will help you to know if you're making progress or you still have a long way to go. All right. And let me leave you with this quote by my all-time favorite productivity coach, Tony Robbins. It says, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. Setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. Every wealthy person, every financial expert, every financially independent person have had to set goals on their way to financial independence or on their way to building sustainable wealth. So you must set financial goals. The moment you're able to set smart financial goals, you are definitely on your way to building wealth. So with this, I have come to the end of this presentation, and I would hand over to Nicole. I see Nicole here. So if there are questions, I will take them now.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And you covered in your presentation so many aspects of different subjects we've been covering over the past 3 weeks. So this was a very inclusive wrap up focusing on SMART goals. So I want to start by saying thank you. I have received a few questions via WhatsApp. Some of our attendees may not be joining on a computer, so it's faster to send it that way. So I'll start with one that we received there. The question was, how can I stay committed to my goal? Maybe some months I will not have money to save.
And that's a very interesting question, because you would have times where you don't have money to save. It's okay. The moment you have money to save, you start saving. It's as simple as that. So you don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself to say, okay, I don't have money to save this period, so I'm just going to shut down my goals. No, your goals might not be achieved now. It might not be achieved today. But you see, when you get to a point where you pause, you want to start to strategize and say, okay, if there are actually viable ways to make more money, say get an extra job or something, that's fine. But if you don't have money to save today, you want to continue when you have money, or you want to set new goals that you can keep up with per day. So, which is why I said you need to do what works for you. For some people, they can't get money every day. Some people get money monthly. So instead of setting daily incomes that you can make, is it okay to set monthly incomes and say, I'm certain that I would have this particular amount at the end of the month. So let me focus on monthly goals. All right. So you want to do what works for you by saying either daily or monthly. As a student, you might not be able to, get money daily. You can say at the end of the month, I would save this. If you're an entrepreneur whereby you're making sales every day, it's much more easier for you to have daily income than other people who are not making money every day. But again, don't beat yourself up. You start saving when you can, but consistency is very important.
Okay, great. Another question. This scholar wrote, thank you for talking about retirement throughout your presentation. My parents did not have a retirement account. Where can I learn more about retirement and retirement goals?
Okay, so one way to learn about retirement or retirement goals will be I'm currently in Nigeria, and in Nigeria we have what we call the pension account. So the pension account is simply your retirement account or your retirement savings account. So when I wanted to start, learning more about retirement, I went into the bank to meet my bank officer and say, I want to start saving for my retirement. Can you put me through? Can you give me some tips? How do I start? So I started by opening a retirement savings account. And then I gave a standing order to my bank to say, every month you will take this particular amount of money from my monthly income and put into my retirement savings account. So I think the first step would be to walk to your bank officer, or just walk into the bank and ask any of the bank officers to say, I want to start savings for my retirement. How can I do it? And they will definitely put you through. Yeah.
Great. Elizabeth, we saw that you asked a question in the chat feature. I think that it would be best if you supplied some more details. So if you would like, we can allow you to speak if you have your audio connected. So just raise your hand or comment in the chat, and then we can enable you to ask your question. But in the meantime, we had one more, and this scholar asked, I don't know when I will be able to enroll in a master's degree, but I would like to. Does this mean I should set it as a long-term financial goal, my savings?
That's a beautiful question. So you have a goal to take on a master's degree, but you don't know when. It's okay, to set it as a long-term goal. And that's if it's a goal for, say, in the next 10 years. But if it's something that you would like to do in, say, 3 to 5 years, that's a midterm goal. If it's something you want to have, say, next year, that's a short-term goal. But here's my advice. Either ways, you already know that you want to take on a master's program. So it might actually be a wise move to actually start saving now. So when you eventually decide, when you want to go for your master's goal, you would already have something on ground that you have started to save. So either ways, whether a midterm or long-term goal, it would not be a problem if you started to save now. So now is a good time. Remember that we said, whatever financial goal you're setting, it's great to start early,
Yes, so that's also one thing that we've been saying. Start now, let's start together throughout this module. So I'm very glad that you, as a professional coming in to speak to us, are also saying and giving the same advice.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Elizabeth, if you would like to ask your question with audio, we're going to give you that opportunity. If not, we can also try to answer your question afterwards. And if there are any other questions for our wonderful guest speaker, this would be the time to type them in the chat or Q&A. We're looking at both of those. I do see one more on my WhatsApp here. This is feels like a personal question, which is okay, I think, but where do you write your goals down and how often do you look at them?
Oh, I love that question. So I have my goal setting notepad is right here in my study, in my library. So I have a journal where I write all my goals. And I look at them. So I have some in my journals, and I also have some on my personal computer. So I have so for example, I just completed my 90-day goal. I set a goal from August that I wanted to accomplish in October, and I've hit my goals. I can say 98% hit my goals. So because I have what I wanted to achieve, every day is not so much to look at your goal. So every morning I have a to-do list that I have. So the night before, I prepare my to-do list. And on my to-do list, I have one thing that moves me closer to my goal. So for example, one of my 90-day goals was to complete a book project that I was working on. And so every day I knew that I needed to write at least a page of my book every day. So whatever decision I'm taking per day must move me closer to my goal. So I have a vision setting journal. I have a goal journal where I write all my goals. And then sometimes I have sticky notes as well, where I write my small micro goals. I put them in my study. I'm currently in my study. I put them around. So when I walk into the study, I look at it. I have some, just right in my bedroom on my wardrobe. When I step into the room, I look at it. So it imprints, on my memory. So you can look at your goal every day. If every day is too much, you can look at your goal weekly. Again, consistency. So you can have a journal to write different goals, your financial goals, your relationship goals, your academic goals, whatever. So it's good to have a journal. I tell people having a journal is very, very important. You need to have a journal to write your goals.
I think I'm going to get a journal. So you have converted me there. So Elizabeth has provided us with a little bit more detail. This will be the last question we take. Elizabeth is sharing with us that she's a member of a community savings group, a SACCO in her nation. And she's asking if saving in a SACCO and then getting a loan from this savings group is a good way in achieving some of her financial goals. We had a webinar last week related to savings groups in communities being a good option for some people to access funds and also save. And so she's connecting these two subjects in, is a SACCO a good way to plan for your financial future, I think.
Okay. I think that if you have a community where you're constantly saving, and so the question is it a good thing to take a loan? I think the first question was to get a loan after the timeline to start our business, and she's going for an internship where a saving might not be updated. Okay, that's quite interesting. So there's no one answer. There's no one size fits all. So you need to make your analysis and your projections to say, if I take a loan, what are the requirements to pay back this loan? Would I need to pay back this loan, say, within a year or within 2 years or within 3 years? If the timeline to pay back this loan is something that you can do, it might not be a problem. Fine, why not take it? But if it's a timeline that puts undue pressure on you, especially where you know that you will not be able to make so much going for internship, you might have to maybe not take a loan from there, maybe take from a source that gives you that long rope, or maybe you want to pause on it a bit where you are sure of, or when you're sure of how you can pay it back. Because you don't want people hounding you down every day to pay back a loan that you don't have the financial capacity to pay. It could mess up with your mind. So do your analysis. Is this loan, am I able to pay it back in a year or two based on what you can do? If the answer is yes, fine. But if there are terms and conditions that you realistically know that you cannot meet up with, maybe it's not a loan that you should take after all.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Elizabeth, for that question as well. So from the Wills Mountain Initiative and all of our attendees here today, we had a great turnout from our student scholars in this module. We want to say thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You have done a wonderful job tying in so many of the topics we've discussed throughout this past month. And we look forward to sharing your slides as well with all of our scholars in the Academy so that they can take in some of your notes even further and remind themselves of them.
Thank you so much. It's been an amazing session. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now be moving into the second part